Terence Dupree stepped into Holston and Royce in a tailored grey suit, briefcase in hand, ready to close a $42 million deal. As CEO of a fast-rising tech firm, he didn't expect red carpets, just basic respect. But the receptionist barely looked up. "Deliveries go to the side entrance," she said, assuming he didn't belong. Terence replied calmly that he had a meeting with senior partners. She cut him off, dismissive, no questions, no confirmation, just judgment. He stood there for a beat, then nodded, turned, and walked out. No drama, no raised voice. She had no idea the man she brushed off held the power to reshape her company's fate. And before the day was over, he would. Terence didn't go far. He stepped into a black SUV waiting just around the corner, where his executive assistant was already on a call. "Redirect the deal," he said simply. Within the hour, contracts were pulled, signatures were halted, and the entire $42 million agreement was rerouted to Archon Systems, a direct competitor of Holston and Royce. Terence wasn't acting out of spite. This was strategy. He believed in partnerships built on trust, vision, and mutual respect. And if a company couldn't recognize basic professionalism at the door, how could they handle the complexities of high-stakes innovation? At Archon, the CEO greeted him at the door personally. No assumptions, no arrogance, just business done right. By the next morning, whispers were circling in the industry. Holston and Royce had lost something big, but no one yet knew why. Terence stayed silent, letting the decision speak for itself. He wasn't interested in headlines. He was interested in principle. Respect, he knew, wasn't something you demanded. It was something you offered first. And when it's withheld, the cost always shows up, eventually. It wasn't until 2 days later that Holston and Royce realized what had happened. The meeting Terence was supposed to attend never took place. Their leadership team waited, confused, assuming there'd been a scheduling issue. But by then, the deal was already signed with their competitor. Calls were made, emails were sent. But Terence didn't respond. He didn't need to. Word traveled fast in the corporate world, and soon, the dots connected. It wasn't just a missed meeting, it was a missed moment. A receptionist's quick judgment had cost them their biggest opportunity of the quarter. Internally, panic spread. Executives demanded answers. Mid-level managers scrambled to shift blame. And the receptionist, she was quietly let go, though the real damage was already baked in. The $42 million loss triggered concern from investors, who began questioning the firm's leadership and operational culture. Clients took notice. Some reconsidered their contracts. Others quietly pulled out. Holston and Royce didn't just lose a deal, they lost their footing, and the man they overlooked hadn't raised his voice or written a statement. He'd simply chosen to walk away and let the silence speak. By the end of the month, the story had leaked. A former Holston and Royce employee, frustrated by the silence and blame shifting inside the company, posted an anonymous thread online. The post didn't name names, but it described everything: the missed deal, the receptionist's assumption, and the quiet man who never returned. It didn't take long for people to piece it together. Within 48 hours, the post went viral. Industry blogs picked it up, then business journalists, then mainstream media. A $42 million mistake, one headline read. Clients started calling, not to ask questions, but to cancel meetings. The firm's polished reputation, built over decades, began to unravel overnight. Meanwhile, Archon Systems released a press statement celebrating their new partnership with Terence, featured in the headline photo, shaking hands and smiling. He still hadn't said a word about Holston and Royce. He didn't need to. As the media storm intensified, The company's board called for emergency restructuring. Layoffs followed, internal memos leaked, and through it all, Terence remained silent. Not out of indifference, but out of discipline. He understood something they never did, that respect isn't just a virtue, it's leverage. 3 months later, the once busy lobby of Holston and Royce felt like an echo chamber. Plants had wilted, desks sat empty. The receptionist desk, the same one Terence once stood in front of, was unstaffed. The company had downsized significantly. Entire departments were cut. Executives rotated in and out as the board scrambled to stop the bleeding. That morning, Terence walked through the glass doors again. This time, he wasn't wearing a suit, just a clean black sweater, jeans, and that same quiet confidence. No assistant, no entourage, just him. A junior associate, one of the few remaining employees, recognized him immediately and nearly choked on her coffee. "Can I help you, sir?" she asked nervously. Terence smiled politely. "No need. I'm just here to look around." He walked slowly through the lobby, pausing by the framed accolades still hanging on the wall. A few employees peeked around corners. No one dared speak. He didn't linger. Just one slow lap through the space, then a nod to the front desk and out the door. It wasn't revenge, it was perspective. He didn't need to burn bridges. Time and truth had already done the job. As Terence stepped back out into the crisp morning air, he didn't feel pride. He felt clarity. The company that once dismissed him without a second glance had unraveled not because of one mistake, but because of a mindset. That day in the lobby wasn't about proving a point, it was about closure. Across the street, Archon's new banner hung boldly on a glass building, already buzzing with new talent and fresh ideas. Terence walked past it without breaking stride. He wasn't interested in gloating or headlines. For him, the lesson had never been about revenge, it was about recognition. In every boardroom he entered now, people listened a little closer. Not because of fear, but because of the quiet authority he carried. Word spread that he judged no one, but remembered everything. When asked about Holston and Royce in an interview later that year, Terence simply said, "Every organization has a moment where they show you who they are. And when that moment comes, believe it." It wasn't just a quote, it was a warning, wrapped in grace, one that echoed far beyond that lobby floor. Months passed, but the impact lingered. Business schools began using the Holston and Royce collapse as a modern case study, not just about lost revenue, but about leadership, culture, and perception. In quiet conference rooms and classrooms across the country, people asked, how could they not see who he was? But that was the point. Terence's story wasn't about visibility, it was about value, about how often we overlook substance in favor of assumption. At his own company, Terence implemented a new hiring practice not based on degrees or pedigree, but emotional intelligence and character. He didn't want his success to be a lesson in loss. He wanted it to be a reminder of what happens when respect is foundational, not optional. At a private dinner months later, a colleague asked if he'd ever consider buying what was left of Holston and Royce. Terence smiled and shook his head. "I don't need their building," he said. "I already learned what I came for." That answer summed up everything. It wasn't power he wanted, it was peace. And peace, once earned, doesn't need applause. It just needs to be lived.